Yeah, I think the Falcons are a really good offense. I don't think a lot of people have it in their head. The Browns are playing a top 10 offense this week in points scored and everything else and a lot of efficiency metrics. This is a good offense. This is why I say if Clowney and Garrett don't play, the Falcons are going to score points. That's just a fact. It's going to happen. We're going to be mad. People are going to be wanting to fire Joe Woods when it happens, but that's going to happen. The real thing that's going to determine whether the Browns can win this game isn't whether Clowney or Garrett's out there or if they can stop them from scoring points X amount of times. It's when they give you the opportunity to turn the ball over, do you take advantage of it? If you don't, you'll lose the game. If you do, you'll win. It's that simple. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions from the internet, answer them here in video format for you. All right, so the first question is from AC Colon, who says, do you see Jacoby being our backup after DeShaun gets to play, or will he be the starter somewhere else? If he goes somewhere else, where do you think he will land? Well, he's going to be the starter when DeShaun gets to play in December. Most definitely. I mean, the backup, my bad. The backup when DeShaun gets to play in December, most definitely, because the Browns aren't going to trade Jacoby Brissette, right? Because the trade deadline, I believe, is like week 8. He's still got 3 more games to play. So no trading Jacoby Brissette. And nobody really trades for a quarterback at the trade deadline. Usually it's a little bit earlier than that. I mean, the last guy I think was Jimmy Garoppolo. But as far as Jacoby, maybe it was Jacoby. Was Jacoby before or after Jimmy Garoppolo? I think one of them two things happened before each other, but it was ironically one of these two. But as far as Jacoby being the backup next year, let's be honest. The better he does this year, the more improbable it becomes that he's the backup next year. And if he plays at this level for the rest of the season, somebody's going to want to pay him to potentially be a starter. Not because he doesn't deserve it. He clearly does, but he might be deserving of a starting opportunity somewhere. Or something where he can be in a competition where with DeShaun here, there's going to be no competition. DeShaun's going to be the starter. There is a small chance that even if he shows that he's good, that people won't want to bring him in for whatever reason. I find that unlikely. But there's also a chance that, he kind of levels out a little bit and becomes a backup. But I think the Browns would love to keep Jacoby as a backup. I think they like what they can get out of him. They think that that's a guy that, hey, if something ever happens, we can rely on this guy. Well, not rely, but we can trust this guy. And he has enough game action to be a nice veteran backup. But the better Jacoby plays, the realistic ideal is that he's going to get paid somewhere to be a starter, or at least be in competition. The next question comes from Dominic, who says, hey, Q, love the content. Appreciate that. After what happened to Myles this past Monday, would you rather him miss a game or two or come back 100%? Do we need him to play to keep the defense strong? When it comes to situations like this, I try to, unless it's egregious, right? And we can look at the damage of the car accident and say it's egregious, but we don't know what the damage really is to MYLES GARRETT. That's not really public information. It's a little bit different from the Tua situation where all of that played out in front of everybody on the football field. This clearly played out in private. So that being the case, I can't judge whether Myles should be on the field. One, because I don't have the medical expertise to know that. I am not a doctor. I did not spend 10 years in school to learn any of this stuff. It would be wrong of me to act like I did. And two, this is going to be between Myles and the medical staff, right? If the medical staff feels like he can play, he can play. If the medical staff feels like it's a good idea for him not to play, he won't play. But that's up to them. They have to decide that. And that's what I have to accept because ultimately we weren't there at the car crash. We weren't there at his hospital bed. We weren't there to see him. We have no information on the extent of this damage based on any kind of perception. We just know what's been reported. So when it comes to this situation, I like to take it ain't none of my business approach because it's not like I could look at the damage that happened to him like it was Tua, right? With Tua, that happened in real time in front of everybody for the whole public to see. This happened in private. I don't know how to judge it. I know a lot of people would feel better if he didn't play as far as his health going forward, but that's not our determination to make. That's Myles's, his family, his close confidants, and the medical staff's determination to make on that situation. This ain't like it's a concussion. They've evaluated it. They have said he did not have a concussion in the car crash. I have to trust that because, again, there's nothing that contradicts that I can see, that I can make a real judgment on, that would be responsible of me. I know there's the body cam footage. I've watched all of that. I'm not about to speculate off of that because, again, I am not a medical professional, and most of you watching aren't medical professionals. And even if you are a medical professional, if you're not intimately involved with that situation, your opinion kind of really doesn't matter because, again, this didn't happen for everybody to see. So I'm just going to trust the people in this situation to make the right determination. Whatever they make, I'm all right with. I have no preference either way, and nor should I. Drew says the offense has been consistently solid so far, but we haven't seen a Josh Dobbs package yet. Do you believe we'll see it debut against Atlanta? Well, you answered your own question within your question. If the offense is performing consistently solid, there's no reason to introduce the Josh Dobbs package, right? The Josh Dobbs package would be like to free up some run lanes. Not a problem. Not a problem, right? So if that's not an issue, why introduce a solution to an issue when there's no issue there? I think that's why we haven't seen a Josh Dobbs package because, quite frankly, why would you introduce it if there's no need to, right? The need for a Josh Dobbs package, I was always going to say was, hey, red zone production, you wouldn't want to use a Josh Dobbs package if that's a problem, or run game production. If the stacking the box is too much, you won't want to introduce a Josh Dobbs package. Red zone production ain't been a problem, and nor has running the ball. It's actually been the opposite. Browns are one of the best red zone and running the ball teams in football. Don't need to introduce a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. That's how you create more problems. And as somebody who is very bad at DIY repairs, that's how I usually mess up, right? When I'm trying to make solutions for problems that don't exist. Now, clearly it's not football, but still the same principle applies. If you start to try to create solutions for problems that do not exist yet, you create more problems for you to deal with. So if the problem don't exist, there's no reason to introduce a solution. The next question comes from Julian, who says, hey, Q, in one of your previous videos, you say the style of play of Jacoby fits the Browns better than Baker, partly because Baker's the #1 draft pick mentality. Do you think that could come back for Watson and introduce a similar problem? Well, one, DeShaun Watson's wasn't a #1 overall draft pick, but I think that kind of reduces what I was saying to something that's like not the point. My point in what I was saying was Baker believed he was the guy when he was never the guy. And what I mean by that is Baker thought that he was somebody on DeShaun Watson's level as a quarterback. When in the NFL, he's a step below. Not a terrible quarterback, but a step below, right? We've seen what happens in Carolina. We've seen what happens with Freddie Kitchens when it becomes Baker Mayfield show. He's not very good, right? Baker Mayfield is somebody who can recreate a great offensive plan. Baker Mayfield is somebody who, if you elevate what's around him, he could be okay. But Baker Mayfield is not somebody who's going to elevate what's around him, right? That's what we found out, right? If you make the offense the Baker Mayfield show in the NFL, it doesn't work. We learned this in 2019. They're learning this in Carolina this year. The Baker Mayfield show doesn't work. He has to accept that he's a supporting player in this game, right? That's what Jacoby Brissette is willing to do. He's willing to accept a supporting role in the offense. Now, DeShaun Watson, he's not going to accept a supporting role in that offense, but that's okay because his resume suggests that he's not a supporting player. That's the big difference, right? Baker Mayfield had that mentality and it didn't match with his play. DeShaun Watson might have that same mentality, but it matches with his play. So you're all right with that, right? If you bring in Tom Brady, you're not worried about whether Tom Brady's going to follow the offense. You just want Tom Brady to do what Tom Brady does. DeShaun's not Tom Brady, but DeShaun's clearly a step above Baker Mayfield on the quarterback hierarchy, to where if DeShaun wants to do more DeShaun stuff, that's okay because that stuff usually works and has been proven to work in the NFL. Thank you for the question, Julian. The next question comes from Michael, who says, with the way the offense is playing, do you think when we play teams like the Bills and the Buccaneers, as well as Miami, that we give them more of a run for their money than others originally thought, as long as our defense gets it together? That's the big question, right? If the defense can get it together and just be decent, force some 3-and-outs every once in a while, then yeah, the Browns have a chance, because if they're able to run the ball at a high level, if they're able to play ball control, you can limit the score against anybody and you can beat anybody in the NFL. That's just a plain, cold fact. You wonder how San Francisco almost made it to the Super Bowl last year with Jimmy Garoppolo, and we seen what he is at quarterback. It's because they can run the ball and control the clock. Right? Up until Jimmy makes one of them bad mistakes. They still can. And even if he does, they have a good enough defense where they can get the ball back, run the ball, control the clock, kick field goals. That's the biggest thing in football. Everybody gets so distracted by all the shiny stuff in football. If you're able to win in the line of scrimmage, you can win any football game that you want. Because winning at the line of scrimmage means you're winning time of possession, which means, hey, it doesn't matter how many shiny, fancy concepts that the Chiefs or whatever team, the Dolphins or whoever's throwing out there, if they can't get the ball, they can't run them. If they only get 10 possessions, they only get 10 possessions, right? So that is the most important thing. We lose track of it. We talk about everything else, the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, and they are important. Trust me, they are. But at the end of the day, football is won on the line of scrimmage. And if you can win on the line of scrimmage, you can win a football game. That's just a plain fact. You ever wonder why North Dakota State can compete with like Arizona, a Pac-12 school, even though North Dakota State's FCS, not like with kids that are like at best 3 stars? It's because they can win on the line of scrimmage. Straight up. Like they can win on the line of scrimmage. Even though they're not as talented, they can win on the line of scrimmage. You know, this thing is a constant throughout football. You can win on the line of scrimmage. You can beat anybody you play against. It's hard to do that, but Browns have the line of scrimmage game on the offensive side to do it. Defensively, when Myles and Jadeveon are out there, they have it. If they not, it's going to be tough. Ian says, hey, Q, could you see a situation where OBJ would return? No, all right, man. OBJ's never coming back, y'all. And it's not because he hates Cleveland. It's not because he hates the Cleveland Browns organization. It's just he's not coming back. Okay? The reason he's not coming back is because everything went wrong for him when he was wearing this uniform. He ain't wearing this uniform again, right? Like that. It's just as simple as that. Some people are superstitious, or some people just don't like the energy, right? And the energy while he was here, it was bad. Half the fans hated him for whatever reason, like got on his case whenever he did anything. And then, you know, he got injured a bunch of times here. He didn't get the ball. He was frustrated. This just isn't the environment in which I feel like he feels like he's going to succeed. Even though it's different now, it's still got that funk on it. A lot of y'all got bullied in high school and will never step foot in that high school, even though them bullies ain't there no more. Nobody gonna bully you if you walk into your high school. But because you got bullied in high school, you're not walking through that door again, right? Because you have bad experiences associated with that building, bad experiences associated with that place that you just don't want to go through again or put yourself through. And that's the same thing with Odell. He did not have a good time over here. And it wasn't because he didn't like the city. It's because of everything that happened when he was on the football field here. It just bad stuff happened. Injuries, not getting the ball, frustration, going 6-10. Like a lot of just bad stuff happened when he was wearing this uniform. That being the truth, he's never coming back. Like he might come back like, you know, like to say hi or if he plays for another team. But as far as him coming back to play for the Browns, no. I find it highly unlikely. And it's not for the reasons everybody else says for. Cam with the question says, hey, going into Atlanta, what do you feel about wide receiver production besides Amari? I feel like they haven't performed or produced like we thought they would. It doesn't matter. If Amari can get 8 targets and 100 yards, it really doesn't matter. If Nick Chubb can get 100 yards and then Kareem Hunt can get 50, it doesn't matter. This we don't have to be obsessed with how many wide receivers can get production because the Browns don't play in a spread. The Browns play a run the ball type of offense, right? They're going to run the ball almost as much as they throw it, which means, hey, on the off chance that we throw it, we just have 2 guys that we want to get the ball to, David Njoku, Amari Cooper, and then whoever else. There's not really room to get a bunch of guys involved in this offense. So I just don't think it matters. As long as Amari Cooper's on the field and being productive, that's all we need. Because that makes it so the Browns can be able to run the ball as much as they want to. I know the Baker Mayfield days, he used to spread it out to like 8 guys. But we saw how that didn't help the run game at times, right? Because when you're spreading it to 8 guys, they don't have to key to anybody. But if you're getting the ball to Amari Cooper and Amari Cooper's getting open consistently, you see how that makes the offense flow so much better? It's because they have to key in on Amari and that takes somebody out the run game. So I'm fine with it. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be overloaded. I think sometimes what works is just what works. Christian says with Mariota being a mobile QB in this game, it's a preview against the Ravens. It is in some ways because they do run a lot of RPOs. They do run a lot of read option stuff. They do run a lot of pistol sets. But, I mean, like comparing Marcus Mariota's athletic ability to Lamar Jackson is like, it's not the same. It's like comparing the iPhone 4 to iPhone 12. Like, yeah, the iPhone 4 got FaceTime and everything on it, but like, them iPhone 14s are different, right? Like, it's just, I don't, that was a terrible example, but you know what I mean? Like, there is levels to the mobility, right? Like, Marcus Mariota can run. He's fast. He's athletic. I'm not saying he's not, but he's not special mobile, right? Like, he's just good mobile. Lamar Jackson's some stuff we never seen before. So there's no preparing for it. But yeah, it is preparing for certain looks. So in some ways, you are preparing for Lamar Jackson. But let's be honest, the Browns have played the Ravens like 6 times with Lamar Jackson. They better be prepared for Lamar Jackson regardless of if they play Mariota or not, because you've had enough reps against him, especially when the defense has been the same for a while. Brown Tiger says this: if we don't have Clowney or Garrett, should we be worried about the Falcons as a whole and not just their rushing attack? Yeah, I think the Falcons are a really good offense. I don't think a lot of people have it in their head. The Browns are playing a top 10 offense this week in points scored and everything else and a lot of efficiency metrics. This is a good offense. This is why I say if Clowney and Garrett don't play, the Falcons are going to score points. That's just a fact. It's going to happen. We're going to be mad. People are going to be wanting to fire Joe Woods when it happens, but that's going to happen. The real thing that's going to determine whether the Browns can win this game isn't whether Clowney or Garrett's out there or if they can stop them from scoring points X amount of times. It's when they give you the opportunity to turn the ball over, do you take advantage of it? If you don't, you'll lose the game. If you do, you'll win. It's that simple this week. It really is. They're going to give you opportunities to turn the ball, to get the ball back. You got to get them. +2 in turnover. That's what our goal is for defense. If Clowney and Garrett ain't out there, +2. Get +2. +2 no matter what. But that is it for this week's Q&A. You guys have a great day. Have a good night.